affect us too, which is why we all carry gas masks. Sergeant Coverdale will show you that. I'm going to pass some of this around. You can look at it. Just try not to pinch your fingers in this. This also lets you feel the weight of what these guys carry. This round will go through windows, doors, sheetrock, garage doors. We've shot them through garage doors. These have a lot of penetrating power. So we have certain ways that we shoot these. Anytime we shoot these, we have two people look at the projectile so we know what we're shooting. So we don't load something that we don't mean to load in there. If we know we're trying to shoot gas, one person looks at it, says it's this, hands it to the person who's shooting it, who loads it into the launcher, and then we'll launch it.
Aside from the gas, what else could it be?
This, or what could go in there?
Yeah.
This is a direct impact foam munition round. Looks like a big bullet. Basically, we can use this as a less lethal option. It'll come apart just like a bullet. That's the casing. It's got the primer in the back. That foam thing comes out, and it hurts when it hits you. A lot. A lot. We used to have the beginning of the technology of these were these foam baton things that you had to skip off the ground, because otherwise they'd kill the person if you shot them straight at them. Well, that's a little dicey to try to shoot somebody across the room, and they weren't really effective. Well, that led to this type of munition, which you can actually hit the person with. Yes, could it kill them if you shot them in the head? Yes, it could. So in these types of situations, we're aiming for center mass to try to incapacitate them, somebody with a knife, somebody who doesn't pose that immediate deadly force threat. We would use these. So you don't want to shoot this when you are meaning to shoot that. And we check everything we put in anything. We also have some rounds that are kind of getting obsolete that go in shotguns, and that's where that kind of double checking, because you don't want to load a buckshot round when you're trying to put in an OC pepper round. But we don't use those anymore just because they've become outdated.
Is that what people mean when they say rubber bullets? This is the kind of round.
This is not a rubber bullet. We don't shoot rubber bullets. We use these, the direct impact, the foam round. You can pass that around and feel it. Some other things we use in conjunction with that launched CS is a hand thrown. This will make your day very unpleasant in your house. It's a tri-chamber. It puts out the same stuff. CS. Basically, they throw up. Kind of works like a grenade, the same fashion. Pull the pin out. You throw it. The spoon releases. It activates the charge, and the gas comes out. This will fill up. This will easily fill up most of an attic. This can, because it continually sends it out until it's empty. And it'll burn for several minutes until the gas is all expended. I'm not going to send that one around because this is a lot. Now the big flash and the loud bang you heard was a flash bang. It's a distraction device. We call it a flash bang. Now what is the point of those? If it does come down to where we have to make entry, our negotiations have failed, or we're executing a high-risk search warrant where we don't call people out. A lot of times narcotics will call us to do search warrants for them if they have intel that the people inside are armed. They have a history of extreme violence or being armed, they will call us to execute the search warrant for them. If y'all already had the narcotics guys come in, they'll execute a lot of their own search warrants, but if it's known to be a heavily armed, barricaded, fortified, or they have several individuals in there, they'll call us to execute the search warrant. Now, in those, we don't call people out. That's the thing you see on TV where we ram in the door and we clear the building. And the loud flash and the explosion you heard was made by this. And why do we use them? What did everybody do? You watched it. That's the point of this. If we breach a door and we need an advantage, right? Because you have the advantage in your house, right? You have the advantage if you're in there because you know the layout. So if we're trying to come in and we breach the door and we're getting ready to come in, we need some help because we're in a fatal funnel. We're in a doorway. You know we're coming through there now. So what can we do to help win some of that advantage to our side? We'll throw that. And a second and a half after that spoon detaches, it works just like that other thing. Pull a pin. When you throw it, the spoon detaches. That goes out. Second and a half later, you get the bright flash and the loud explosion. What's your first inclination when you see something like that going? Oh, what's that? By the time they have the time to go, what's that? It goes off. Just to give us a little bit of an advantage so that we can overwhelm them once we come in. That's what we're trying to do when we come in to a room or a building where there's a suspect inside that we're trying to take into custody, is to overwhelm them with the violence of action and just sheer amount of force that we've shown up with to get them to surrender. We don't want to shoot them. We don't want them to shoot at us. We would much prefer that the tools we use to get them to come out work. Because if we can get them, through the gas or negotiations to surrender, everybody's safe. Okay, and none of these guys signed up to kill anybody. Not a one of them. They don't want to do that. They want everybody to go home safe, including whoever it is we're there for.
So, sir, speaking of the killing part, like in that scenario, how do you dictate who's going to take the shot? Is it usually referred to the sniper or whoever?
We don't have any kind of like you see on TV, like they got to get the green light and all that kind of stuff. Every officer on the SWAT team is able to independently make that decision. That sniper, from the time he's deployed, if he sees a deadly force threat to any victims, any of us, he's going to take the shot to protect us, to protect any victims. And that's what the scenario that unfolded outside was. The suspect came off the bus, raised the gun up, pointed at the officers on the perimeter position with the negotiator, and the sniper stopped the threat. Okay, we shoot to, whatever you hear, we shoot to stop. If the person dies, that happens, but we shoot to stop the threat. And we will immediately, all the officers carry, all the SWAT guys carry med packs on their vests. One, it's for us if we get injured, because if we're in a SWAT type call out, EMS can't come into us. We have to take care of ourselves in there. So we have tourniquets, pressure bandages, all those kind of things. If we shoot a suspect, we're gonna provide aid to them until we can get EMS into them.
Officer Morrow's got the best med pack, that's why I don't get far from him.
If you're, in one of these high-risk situations like you're talking about with the narcotics warrants, and you're coming through the door, are you moving to disarm immediately? I mean, like, what's your initial objective once y'all make entry into the residence or building?
In a search warrant type situation, a search warrant is to detain any people that are in the house, prevent them from being able, one, to hurt anybody, and two, destroy evidence if it's a narcotic search warrant. So we're going in to, you'll go in and any people we encounter, we immediately detain them. We don't pass them up, things like that. Whoever kind of encounters them, we'll take control of that person, get them on the ground, keep them, we'll handcuff them, then bring them out. And we turn those scenes over to narcotics and give them, here's this person, we found them in this room, they threw this gun down, or whatever happens. That happens frequently. Our last couple of search warrants that we've done for narcotics, the last one we had two people both throw guns down as we were coming through the door.
About how much time do you take to try and determine how many people are in the residence, like what kind of potential threats you might be looking at before you try?
The narcotics unit will do as much intel as they possibly can on their known targets. They'll do surveillance so they kind of know how many people they've seen there, who they've seen there. If they have any informants that are working with them, giving them information, hey, there's usually this many people in there, they have this kind of weapon, or this is where they keep the dope, this is where they keep the weapons. We'll have as much intel as we can, and we brief on all that before we go in. But there's always that unknown when we go in. The last search warrant we did for narcotics had 14 people in it.
You have 14 handcuffs?
14 people inside a probably 900 square foot house. So yeah, we were running into people all over the place, and there were 2 guns in there that I know of that they threw down as we were coming through the door, and they gave up basically because of the show of force we had. A lot of times that show of force will get people to surrender because they don't want to deal with that coming through the door because they know we mean business. The SWAT team showed up, they mean business, and that works to our advantage. Some of the other things we'll use if we have to breach the door, we have rams. Pry bars in here, paladins. So whoever gets to be our ram guy, it's usually one of the bigger ones. Dave's hit more than a door in his day. Rick, even little me's hit doors in my day. If y'all want to pass that around and see how heavy it is. And I pass this stuff around so you can see how heavy it is, so you can appreciate the normal SWAT call out is usually several hours long. The acronym SWAT stands for Special Weapons and Tactics. We say it, sit, wait, and talk. Because we spent a lot of time sitting around in this gear and holding this stuff. These are Halligans. They're basically pry bars that we use to pry open doors. Anything else that might be an obstacle. Those are the same things. One's a little new. We haven't dinged it up yet. We've got tools that we use to break out windows, rip down blinds. Say we need to see inside. We'd much rather know what we're going into. We can use this tool, break out windows, rip out blinds, rip out curtains. That way we can see in. That way it gives us a little bit more knowledge of what we're dealing with inside. Because I don't know how you set your furniture up in your house. I don't know how the furniture's set up in a house that I'm going into. And we'll get the people, if we have somebody, let's say there was a victim inside that was able to make it out, her boyfriend's still in there with a gun, won't come out, she'll draw us a picture of the inside of the house, and every time it's wrong. I have never got somebody to draw me a picture of the inside of the house and it'd be right. It's always wrong.
You don't use those in initiations?
We got this. This is a cool little tool we use to cut through drywall, ceilings. It's it doesn't conduct electricity. We have verified that. We didn't mean to. The guy cut through and went, ah! Luckily, he's still here. Now the fun guys, when we do have to go in and make an entry, you saw the guys carrying this, the shield. This does offer ballistic protection, but it makes that shield guy vulnerable. Right? Because he's basically covering the team. Yeah, he'll have his pistol out, but then he's fighting with this thing to help cover the team. So that first guy is really vulnerable. And he has to carry this thing for a long time and hold it up. And remember, these can be hours-long situations. So if you want to stand up and hold that for about 2 hours, then we'll talk. Rick carries the shield for us. Dave's carried the shield. Actually, one of our smaller guys, who's not here, carries the shield. It's not a lot of fun. We'll wear the guys out with that. Rick, you want to go over the rifles? Or Dave, you want to go to the sniper? You want to do it?
I can as well.
Okay. This is Justin Rodell. He's one of our snipers. He's also our resident gun freak. He doesn't use cologne. He uses gun oil. Enthusiast. I'm sorry. He's a gun enthusiast. He's going to go over some of the rifles, including this sniper rifle.
All right. This is a AR-15 variant. Some people might refer to them as like a AR-15. This one is only semi-automatic. It's not a fully automatic rifle.
We do have fully automatic versions of those.
That other one is or not. But this shoots a .223 or a 5.56 millimeter round. It's the same bullet essentially. There's some small differences, but none worth talking about here. It's about the diameter of a .22 rifle, but we carry 30 rounds. It's very accurate. The military uses them with an engagement of up to 600 meters, 5 to 600 meters for individual size targets, area targets up to 800 meters. We don't operate in those distances, but what this works well for is a perimeter position. We go on a call out. Our first priority is basically to secure that threat to a certain area so that whoever is posing that threat is not able to escape and endanger the rest of the community. So we will relieve patrol and we'll set up a perimeter. Officers set up on each side of the building. They'll designate which areas that they're containing, and they'll sit up there behind cover with something similar to this. We have optics on all of our perimeter weapons. This is an ACOG. These toys cost probably $1,200 for this right here. It's got a red dot sight or a reflex sight on top, so whenever you look through it at any angle, if you're somewhat behind the weapon, you can see a red dot, and that is ideally where your bullet's going to impact, is where that red dot is on the target. The actual scope portion is a 4-power scope, and we can engage targets with these in some of our competitions out to 300 yards.
Before you panic about budgets and oh my gosh, they spend that much, 99% of all the equipment that SWAT uses is paid for by your local drug dealers. We get it out of the law enforcement trust fund, money we've seized, vehicles we've sold from drug dealers. 99% of all the equipment we have is paid out of the law enforcement trust fund, so it doesn't cost the taxpayers a dollar. We use it on the same guys that we're going out to get. They basically pay for us to come arrest them.
How much is that typically annually?
Say that again.
How much would that typically be annually?
It depends what we get yearly out of the law enforcement trust fund. If we're getting rifles, it can be more. If we're getting optics, Last year, I purchased 2 brand new, these sniper rifles that he's about to show you, and for both of them, it was about just under $14,000. Now, these are top of the line. That's out the door with every piece of equipment on it. And these are top of the line pieces of equipment because there's no value to human life. If we need to spend that much money out of the drug dealers' pockets in order to protect the community, there's no amount of value for when he's laying behind that rifle and has to make that shot in a window that big. I don't know, you can probably check from Channel 3 years and years and years ago. They did some competition where it was called The Shot. They were doing these different things, will they make it or not. One of our snipers shot it was a dime or something at 100 yards on a cold bore shot. So just to show you the level of expertise that these guys can do is impressive. And we trust them, the entry team and the perimeter teams, we trust these snipers with our lives are in their hands sometimes because they can see an overview. If we're standing against a building about to make entry, we may not be able to see the guy leaning out of a window about to shoot at us. He can. He's our protection. He's watching our back.
So yeah, this is a perimeter weapon. We sometimes use them on entry. While it's a long gun, it's still fairly compact, and if you need to, you can pull it in and come around corners. You can switch sides, come around corners. And pretty much everybody on the SWAT team is fairly proficient with AR. I was saying this is a 5.56 round. That's the round this rifle shoots. If you want to pass that around. Something that might be foreign language to you, that's, what is that? A 55 grain bullet. 55 grains, the grain measurement is kind of a number that doesn't mean a whole lot to you, but in a second, it's basically the weight of the projectile that comes out the end. So that's an AR. Does anybody have any questions about the ARs? No?
We've actually just purchased 15 brand new 6-hour MPX rifles to replace all those. Little sucky compactor about that big with a weight from the ride. Purchased from your friendly drug dealer.
What do you do with the old rifles? Do you keep those in stock or do you sell them?
Some we'll keep, some we can use them and kind of trade them for their value in order to get weapons. We've done that with the rifles that are coming in. Rather than just let them sit and collect dust, we trade those to get something new because they are pieces of equipment that will wear out, they'll get worn out. So we're actually in the process, we're waiting for our new rifles to arrive in the orders. So we're waiting on that. These will go away.
So that's the AR. These are our sniper rifles. LT just mentioned we purchased 2 of them last year. That rifle with the optic is probably worth $1,500. Well, with the optic is about 12. So the whole rifle's worth probably $2,000. This right here is about 7. With the glass optic and the suppressor on it. We passed around the 5.56 round. This is a 7.62 round. That's millimeters. That's the diameter of the projectile. It's also known as a 308. If you're a hunter, you might be familiar with that cartridge. That's a 165 grain bullet. We shoot some barrier rounds to go through some of this hurricane glass we have down here. It's closer to like 185 grain bullet. So it's a much larger projectile. It has a much better capacity to incapacitate somebody. As a sniper, we have several different roles we'll deploy. Typically one of the first people out of the scene of a call out, and I've got this scope here. I can be somewhere inconspicuous, hidden out of view. I was out in the open up on the roof for the demonstration purposes, but we typically will deploy out of view. And I've got this scope here that goes up to 27 magnification, so I can pretty much read people's minds. And then it backs out to 4 power, so at closer distances I still have a good field of view. This optic, I believe, is close to $1,600 again. So quality glass is pretty important when we're working with these pieces. We've also got the suppressor on the end of it. Some people refer to this as a silencer. That's not really accurate unless you're shooting ammunition that travels slower than the speed of sound, because you still have a sonic boom when the round comes out of the barrel. But that allows me to be able to follow up, be able to hear my radio, and if my team is on the ground and they hear a shot and they can hear that it's suppressed or it's silenced, then they know it's me versus rounds coming at them. We switched to a semi-automatic weapon. Most of our engagement distances for law enforcement are under 75 yards. I've engaged targets with similar rifles out to 800. For civilian purposes, we're trying to identify a target, not just spray bullets, so we typically don't do that. Our typical engagement is about 75 yards. We've gone to semi-automatic capacity so we can switch out rounds. I mentioned we have hurricane glass down here. If you're trying to shoot a round accurately, our accurate rounds don't go through glass well, and our rounds that go through glass don't go through, or aren't that accurate. So we've gone to semi-automatic capacity so I can take a magazine with 20 rounds and switch different rounds that I want to shoot at will. And again, that's a 20-round capacity, and I can carry 3 mags pretty easily. Hopefully I'm a better shot and don't need all that.
We're gonna send around, while he keeps talking, we're gonna send around one of these vests so you can see what they stand around in. This has 3 mags in it, which is pretty standard, so you can feel. It's got a ceramic plate in the front. The myth about bulletproof vests is they're not completely bulletproof. A rifle round will go through that soft armor. So in these SWAT vests, we have ceramic plates that'll stop a rifle round. That adds weight, but it also adds protection. So I'm going to pass that around so you can feel what these guys are carrying. You've got that, and the helmet, and the rifle with a 30-round mag in it. It starts getting heavy.
How many pounds?
Depending on what you're carrying in your vest, some guys they'll customize a little bit to the amount of mags you're carrying, but anywhere between probably 30 to 45.
Do you have to try out for the SWAT team, or are you like a pick? How's that?
Yes, we do have a tryout for the SWAT team. If we have any openings, we'll put out to the department that we're going to have tryouts, and that's exactly what it is.
So what do you do with tryouts?
It's composed of a physical fitness portion, which will be a portion in the weight room, runs, and a shooting course under stress, which basically we won't stand there and just shoot at a target. We make them run, we make them get tired, we make them jump over walls, we make them put on gas mask and take off gas mask and drag dummies and throw dummies over wall. If you've met the dummy that we've dragged for years and years for our physical fitness test, we actually make the SWAT guys throw it over 2 4-foot walls or a 4-foot wall. You've got to get the dummy over the wall, which is no small feat at times, especially after it's been out in the rain. So we add that up. Then we do an interview with any potential candidates. We'll do an interview with the entire SWAT team in order to. We have specific questions we ask them to see their demeanor, how they think on their feet, things like that. We review their personnel records and talk to their supervisor to make sure they're the caliber of officer that we want on the SWAT team.
What about body cameras in the SWAT team? Do y'all use those?
No, we do not wear body cameras.
I was curious with that, what model of rifle is that? It looks familiar, my dad was ex-military, so.
This is custom built by
That was custom built?
by a shop in Crestview.
Okay.
It's all custom components. If you're familiar with ARs, they're typically recoil with a spring in here. It's got a captured spring to reduce.
Impact to the shoulder.
No, it reduces your play.
Okay.
The wobble in the rifle, that springy noise that you hear when you shoot one of these other rifles. It's got custom match barrels and bolts, and I could probably talk to you for the next
You can talk
hour
about bullets
what's
for
going
days.
into this.
I'm sure he could.
Is that the rifle that we heard off of?
No, it was raining out there. I didn't feel like cleaning this. Took one of the old
I was
rifles.
wondering, I was like.
He shot a blank up there.
All.
No, he shot a blank up there for effect.
I was going to yell pew because we have suppressors now, but
And we don't use the silencers because we think they're like super cool and all that stuff. It's 100% to save our hearing. If we're in a building, if you know anything about shooting guns, if you shoot one inside and don't have ear protection on,
Feel it.
we're going to not be able to hear anything after if we have to shoot. So that's why we have suppressed weapons, not because it's super cool or we're trying to be sneaky. It's totally to save our hearing on the inside.
So I like watching this one show called Flashpoint on Ion. Have y'all ever watched it?
No.
And they use the terminology, I've got the solution.
It's on TV.
What'd you say?
Said if it's on TV, we're exactly like that.
He also said you had a dancing portion of the tryouts you didn't talk about.
Yeah. Do some dancing.
Whenever one of the people holding the gun, I don't know what it's called, target someone, they always say, I've got the solution, and they wait to be prompted to shoot. Is that common terminology? I've got the solution.
I don't know who advises them on their TV show, but
It's
for us,
based in
no.
Ontario, though, by the way.
For us, no. If I send Sergeant Coverdale and an entry team into a building, if they encounter a threat that is a deadly threat to them, they're a deadly force, they don't have to call me and ask permission to shoot. The guy in the front of the stack doesn't have to ask back to Sergeant Coverdale for permission to shoot. That's not how it works. If we did that, you'd have dead police officers. So just like Officer Rodell,
I think they do it once they get in place, so that whoever the negotiation team is, or, TV show.
right. When we deploy out, we have radio communication. They call in, so I know where people are at. I've got a big whiteboard in the command post that I use, so I know where everybody is, and those kind of things. But no, we don't. You do not have to request permission to shoot.
And so, also, when you said you don't know what's on the inside of our houses, it made me think about all the public places in town. Do you know what's on the inside of most public places you have?
We do. We go in as many of those, just on regular patrol. We encourage all our officers to go in different public buildings. We also have a good partnership with a lot of businesses in the area that allow us to come train in their facilities. We've done active shooter type scenarios with the SWAT team inside Sacred Heart, inside some of their ER pods. Gulf Power, we've been in their corporate building. The school board is excellent in working with us in abandoned schools, and then during the summer allowing us to go into their facilities and train in real life, buildings that are standing up. We're not setting up fake walls and doing training at the range with plywood and things like that. You're going in actual buildings. The airport has acquired, as you may or may not know, they acquire different properties up there, and they'll give us the opportunity to go through the houses they've acquired before they demolish them to do training and room clearing and entry tactics and things like that. So we have a lot of good working relationships with a lot of the businesses in the area that allow us to come into their facilities and train. We've done it at Cordova Mall at night when the mall's been closed. They've given us full run of the mall in order to train in the event there was something were to happen in the mall. So that's very helpful to us, because one of the good things about the mall is there's stuff in there. It's one thing to go in and acquire abandoned building because it's just a big open room. There's nothing really in it. But if we go in the mall and those other places, there's desks and clothes and clothes racks and all kinds of stuff that we have to work around, which is a real life scenario. So we're fortunate to have those relationships in order to go train in those places. Is there any other places I'm forgetting?
Do you joint train at
Shout out.
any of Pensacola with their exercises?
I'm sorry?
Do you do any of the training with the military exercises at any of Pensacola when they're like training for whatever type of disasters or?
We have in the past. We haven't done any recently with them, but we have in the past. We've trained with them. We've trained with Escambia during different training that's come here to do vehicle assaults and airplane assaults and things like that. So we've been very fortunate here locally to have a lot of places that allow us to come in because they see the value in us knowing the layout in the event something were to happen. It's always, it may not give us all the advantage. We may not know right where the bad guy is inside or whatever's going on inside, but we'll at least kind of know the lay of the land a little bit. So that's helpful for us.
So over the last week or so when this whole boyhead thing's been going on, you guys just been at high alert the whole time to potentially get called out if, they find out he's, holed up in a house on Creighton or something like that. Were you guys just basically on high alert to maybe go respond to that if necessary?
Anytime you kind of have some of those higher profile things that could happen at any minute or at any time, we'll generally put out to the guys to, be aware of what's going on, be close by to your stuff if something were to happen so you're able to respond. So we definitely pay attention to those things and have the ability to kind of roll out a little quicker if we need to. Yes, ma'am.
Y'all travel in that command unit?
We'll use that mostly for negotiations. We'll use different vehicles to get the officers. Normally, if it's a call out, let's say 1 o'clock this morning, we get a call to somewhere on the north end. Someone has, battered his wife, and now he's barricaded himself in a home with a gun. Once we make the call out, the officers will arrive to a place where we have a team of officers who will get the command post, bring that to the location where we've already met, and then we'll stage out of that command post.
think I wrote, well, I know I wrote it down. You said you've never used deadly force in the SWAT team?
That's correct. The SWAT, in a SWAT deployment, we've never been required to use deadly force. Knock on wood. And that's not a testament, that is some testament to just some of the tactics we do, but a lot of it has been just, some of it's luck.
I guess the negotiators are a key part of that.
Yeah, we have a really solid group of negotiators who do a really, really good job in talking to people. We also are able to affect the tactics that we train on and the tools we use in the best way possible so that we can bring those incidents to as peaceful a resolution as possible.
And I don't know how, I guess you have different degrees. You show up, then you break in, then you did. How many times would you have to, in a year's time, how many times do you break into a house?
You know, I've been asked that a lot. There's no real way to gauge it. I've been in times where we've had 3 call-outs in 5 days. Where it's back to back. But then we've also gone a couple months where we haven't had anything. So there's no real way to gauge it. We generally have more than 10 a year, but they can come in spurts. They can come, kind of spread out. There's no real. You can't say, hey, it's July. We're going to have 4 call-outs. It's just there's no way to anticipate it.
10 or 100.
Right. It's usually we'd average over 10 actual call-outs.
We had 3 in one night one time.
Yeah, we've gone call to call a couple times, so it's been a little tiring, some long nights, because when you call out the SWAT team, it's usually not going to be over quickly because we're going to do everything we can to get the person to surrender, to come out to us and surrender. So we'll negotiate as long as negotiations are working, as long as they're talking to us and not hurting somebody else. We'll talk to them for a long, long time.
As a testament to that, and also working with the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, there was one incident a couple of years ago where the Sheriff's Office was on a call-out for 12 hours, just trying to negotiate with a suspect that was barricaded in the attic, and we relieved them after 12 hours with the intention of going another 12 if we needed to and giving it back to them. It ended up that we were able to get the gentleman out of the attic after probably 5 or 6 hours into it.
So we have a relationship with Escambia. If they're going to be out of town at training, they call us and we'll cover the county for them. Same thing for us. If we're not going to be available for out of town for training, they'll cover the city calls. If they're like at that call, they were there for a long time. 12 hours in that gear is a long time for them wanting to be negotiating. And when you're on those call-outs, you're not just sitting around loafing, hanging out. You're ready to take action because it could happen that next second. So after about 12 hours, their guys were getting a little fatigued, so they called us. We came out, relieved them, so they could go rest, eat, get a little bit, a couple hours of sleep, and then we would just rotate back out. Santa Rosa County, several years ago, how long was Roman?
Probably 12 years.
12 to 14 years ago, a deputy was ambushed at the front door. He was shot through the front door of a residence, and at that call out, you had Santa Rosa, Escambia, us, and Okaloosa, I believe. So we're all, if we need help, we can call. If one of the other SWAT teams in the area needs help, they'll call us, and we'll be there to support each other. So we have a good working relationship in that aspect. That we all know what the objective is, and we're there for each other when they need help.
Do you guys integrate teams?
No, we will not integrate teams. Like at the one where we relieved the county, we took over the perimeter. We took over the outer perimeter, the inner perimeter. And we controlled that. We didn't integrate. Of course, our SWAT commander is in contact with their SWAT commander, their command post, so they know what everybody's doing. But you totally pull everybody off more as a communication issue so that everybody is on the same page and the communication knows what's going on. You don't have somebody that's on a different channel. Because back then we didn't really have the ability to talk well to each other. With the advances in the radios that we have now, we do have some better ability to all be on the same channel. And talk to each other. We could go, I think us, Escambia, and Santa Rosa all have the ability to just click to a different channel on the radios and we can all talk on that. So we've had some improvements in that area, so that would be better. I'm not going to say we would never integrate our teams because you could have, some open field searches, big open wooded area searches where you might, entertain doing some of that, but as a rule, we're generally not going to integrate. Mostly because we've all trained together, I've been on the SWAT team with Dave and Matt the longest, 12, 13 years at this point. Dave's been on 16, so we've been on a long time. I know what he's going to do, even though I stand outside of the command post now because I'm a SWAT commander. I don't have any fun. I just stand outside now. But I knew what he was going to do. I knew what Matt's going to do in the building. We didn't have to talk. I knew exactly what they were going to do just by how they looked or what they did. So you build that through training. And you're able to react to those guys, you know, in front of you and behind you and what's going on without a whole lot of talking. So that's something, that's kind of a flow you don't want to interrupt if you don't have to. Any other questions? Like I said before, and I'll reiterate again, you know, SWAT's job, everything, oh, SWAT showed up, they got all these vests and these guns and all that stuff. That's not because we're showing up to tear up stuff. It's not because we're showing up because we're going to, you know, we're just going to go kill this guy. We have the same rules to operate under. Just because we're on the SWAT team doesn't give us carte blanche to do things. We still have to play by the rules, and the bad guys don't. So these guys work really, really hard to maintain their level of physical fitness, to maintain their level of training, so that they're mentally prepared to go. We've been to those calls where there's a guy inside with an AK-47 who says, I'm going to kill you when you come in that door. I ain't coming out. I'm going to kill one of you when you come in here. That's what we're going into. Okay, and these guys have to show a tremendous amount of restraint because we have to play by the rules. We don't just get, because you're SWAT, you get to go in and just start shooting indiscriminately. We have to account for every round we send down range. We have to account for it and say why we did it. And we have to justify it. So when you see all the SWAT stuff out there and you're mad because the road's blocked, it's because we're trying to resolve those situations peacefully. We want the person to come out. And yeah, it looks crazy. You know, when you hear those flashbangs going off, when we start deploying that CS gas, it makes a cloud, and it looks horrendous what's going on down there. But those are all calculated and measured things that we do in order to try to get someone to surrender to us. Because I don't want to go stick my head in an attic with a guy with a gun who said he's going to kill one of us any more than any one of those guys does. No matter how much training you have, that's a different feeling when you're the one who's about to stick your head up through an attic opening and there's a guy in there with a gun. It's a very different kind of feeling, and it takes a lot of guts to do that. So we appreciate y'all coming out tonight. We appreciate your support. If you ever see the SWAT team out, one thing I'll ask you to do is, everyone has Facebook Live now, right? Everybody live streams and all that. Please don't live stream if you happen to be in your house and there's a SWAT operation going on across the street from your house. Please do not put that out there, because it will somehow get on the news or back around, and that person may be able to see exactly what we're doing. We would prefer them to not know where we are, just to give us a little bit more advantage. So if y'all would help us in that, we would certainly appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Any last questions before we turn it back over to Jimmy? No? If y'all are taking a break, and if you want to look and handle any of that stuff you didn't get to handle, we're more than welcome to open to hang out for a couple more